Welcome to the mandatory 4-hour Powers to Arrest training course presented online by Locked On Referrals Protection Incorporated. The course is divided into 15 parts as you see here in the table of contents, followed by answers to the study questions. Part names are presented here in bold black lettering. Subheadings are numbered and presented here in blue. Descriptive information and text is indented in black. And finally, critical information is presented in red. Following each part is a series of exam questions presented in this format. These are study review questions to help you monitor your course retention. They are not part of the final examination. Let us begin. Part A, the role and responsibilities of the security guard. Number 1, it's important to remember you are not a peace officer. How are security guards different from peace officers? Well, they do not have the same job duties, training, or powers as peace officers. What happens when a security guard pretends to be a peace officer? Well, any security guard who pretends or even implies that he or she is a peace officer is committing a crime. Fourth, what are a security officer's roles and responsibilities? Well, they should be to protect the people and property of his employer. A security guard's responsibility before an incident or offense has occurred should be one of prevention. And during or after an incident or offense, the focus should be to observe and report. Fifth, how should a security guard perform his or her job? Well, again, the primary responsibility of the security guard should be prevention before an incident or offense occurs, and what that means is they should be highly visible. Being seen, the security guard or private security officer will discourage anyone who might consider theft, damage, or personal injury. Therefore, to do the job well, a security guard must be alert, listen, and watch. The decision on how the security guard should react to any given situation is at the discretion of the security officer's employer. What's a sign that the security guard is doing a good job? Well, obviously, the absence of incident or offenses is one sign that the security guard is doing a good job. What should a security guard do if an incident or offense occurs? Well, first of all, you should not immediately intervene. Instead, the security guard should stay calm, observe and remember the events, and report to the police or the officer's supervisor as soon as possible. What should a security guard do if the incident occurs? Again, remember, some employers may want their security personnel to be more proactive as long as they stay within the parameters of what is lawful. Therefore, it's pretty much up to your employer. Exam review number 1. Now, on a separate sheet of paper, answer the following questions. Question 1. The primary role of the security guard should be to enforce the law, protect people and property, act like a peace officer, arrest lawbreakers. This is multiple choice, so choose the answer that is most correct and write down the letter that precedes that answer. Question 2. A security guard's role is the same as that of a police officer. Is that statement true or false? For true, write A. For false, write B. Question 3. What should the responsibility of a security guard be before an incident or offense has occurred? Again, multiple choice. A. Detain and punish. B. Stay out of sight. C. Prevent. D. Search and seizure. Choose the answer that is the most correct and write down the letter that precedes that answer. Question 4. It is against the law for a security guard to A. Arrest someone, B. Protect property, C. Observe and report, or D. Make someone think he's a peace officer. Select the correct answer and write the letter that precedes that answer. 8. What is a security guard's job? Again, the security guard is assigned to protect specific people and property. It may include detecting other crimes like fights or burglary, but not motor vehicle crimes or prostitution. Remember, you're hired to protect your employer's property, not to function like a peace officer. 9. What is a peace officer's job? Their job is to enforce all laws and preserve the peace. Your job as a security guard is to protect specific people and property. So remember, peace officers protect all people, all property, and enforce all laws. 10. What other duties might a security guard have? Well, they might include verifying identity, searching lunch pails, or safety monitoring. Again, all of this is at the discretion of your employer. Exam review number 2. Now, on another sheet of paper, answer the following questions. Question 5. You're standing guard inside a department store and you observe 2 men coming out of a bar across the street. They start to fight. You should A, go over and try to break up the fight. B, call the police if you can remain at your post. Again, this is multiple choice. Choose the answer that's most correct and write down the letter that precedes that answer. Question 6. You're hired by a bar as a security guard. An angry customer refuses to pay his check. Your job is to A, arrest him and everyone in his party. B, keep the peace and follow restaurant policy. Again, multiple choice. Choose the answer that is most correct and write down the letter that precedes that answer. Comment. Notice the difference between situations in questions 5 and 6. In question 5, the fight does not relate to your responsibility at the department store. But in question 6, the dispute definitely relates to your responsibility because it could impact or damage the property of your employer. 11. Prevention is the key. For example, if you spotted some people trying to climb the fence and enter private property, you should shout at them and turn on your lights. Do anything lawful that would discourage their trespassing. Don't wait until they cross the fence so you can arrest them. 12. Observe and report. And again, this is repetitive, but it's really important. Before the incident, the security role should focus on prevention. During or after an incident, the focus should be to observe, report, and notify law enforcement. 13. Get help. If a serious offense occurs, like robbery or assault, you should immediately call the police and notify your supervisor. In the examples here, an offense has occurred, so your job is to observe and report. In these examples, an offense has not yet occurred, so your job is one of prevention by making your presence known. Part B, relations with local police officers. Your job is made easier if you have a good working relationship with local law enforcement. That means never play cop and don't mislead people and allow them to think that you're a peace officer. During an emergency, you may not interfere with law enforcement. Rather, you may be asked to assist them and even participate in making an arrest. Exam review number 3. Now, on another sheet of paper, answer the following questions. Question 7. A security guard's lawful authority is the same as that of a peace officer. A, yes. B, no. Choose the answer that is correct and write down the letter that precedes that answer. Question 8. During an emergency on the employer's property, a peace officer instructs a security guard to stand out of the way behind the police line. The security guard must A, refuse, B, cooperate, C, apprehend. Again, this is multiple choice. Read all these questions carefully and choose the answer that is most correct and write down the letter that precedes that answer. Part C, observation and report writing. Number 1, stop, look, and listen. In a sense, security guards are paid observers. When an offense has been committed, your responsibility should be to observe and report, and you may be required to report to the police, write a report for your employer, or testify as to what you saw, heard, and did. Number 2, fact versus conclusion. You will need to know the difference between a fact and a conclusion. A fact is what actually happened or is known to be true. A conclusion is a judgment or opinion formed on the basis of those facts. Here's an example. Fact: as I came around the corner, I saw 2 men kneeling at the door. One was holding a crowbar. The door had markings around the lock. Conclusion: the men are burglars. Now, study this table carefully until you can discern readily the difference between facts and conclusions. Remember, practice makes perfect. And finally, when you write a report, remember to always include these 6 facts: who, what, where, when, how, and the names of witnesses. Exam review number 4. Now, on another sheet of paper, answer the following questions. Question 9. In order to maintain a good working relationship with local law enforcement, you should A, never play cop, B, cooperate with local law enforcement, or C, both A and B. Again, this is multiple choice. Choose the answer that is most correct and write down the letter that precedes that answer. Question 10. Write an F if it's a fact or a C if it's a conclusion beside all 4 of the following statements. Question 11. What 6 points should be included in your report? Part D. Authority to question and basis for making decisions. Number 1. The security guard's authority to question people. As an agent of the property owner, your employer, you have the right to ask people on the property what they're doing there, etc., and ask them to leave. If they do not comply, you have the right to arrest them, a citizen's arrest, for trespassing. Number 2, what are the property owner's rights? A property owner has the right to establish rules that are not part of the penal code. Your job is to be aware of those rules and enforce them. Aggressively enforcing your employer's rules may, however, violate the law. Example: if you use unnecessary force to remove a subject from the premises, you could be charged with assault, so you need to know the rules and the law. Number 3, how should you handle violations? Well, try to handle them verbally if possible, using physical force as a last resort. What this means is you need to know your employer's rules and how to enforce them without violating the law yourself. Exam review number 5. Question 12. On private property, your authority to question is A, no more than any private persons, B, the same as the owner of the property and greater than that of other private parties, or C, the same as peace officers. Again, multiple choice, choose the letter beside the correct answer. Question 13. Employees are told they may not enter the factory without their identification badges. One employee shows up without his badge and tries to enter. He is violating A, a company rule, B, a public law, C, both a company rule and a public law. Again, multiple choice, choose the answer that's most correct and write down the letter beside that answer. Question 14. If you ask the employee to leave and he refuses, he is violating a public law. Yes or no? Write A for yes, B for no. Number 4, a basis for making decisions. The 3 factors to consider when making a decision are the facts of the situation, number 1, number 2, the law, meaning has a law been violated, and number 3, what is your employer's policy in this regard? Part E, inspections. Number 1, as a security guard, you may be asked to perform inspections of employees. Remember these 2 things. Any inspection requires the compliance of the employee, and you may never touch them or their property without permission. If an employee does not cooperate, you should record their identity and make a report to your employer. Exam review number 6. Question 15. Your employer asks you to inspect the personal belongings of employees leaving the plant. He has announced this policy to all employees. What is important to remember about the inspections? A. Never inspect without cooperation from the employee. B. Never touch the employee. C. Never touch the employee's belongings. Or D. All of the rules above. Again, multiple choice. Choose the correct answer and write down the letter beside the correct answer. Number 16. An employee who is leaving work walks up to you and hands you his lunch pail for inspection. What should you do? A. Accept it and open it to look inside. B. Decline to take it and instead ask the employee to open it so you can inspect the contents. Or C. Take it but have the employee open it. Again, multiple choice. Choose the right answer. Question 17. You are walking through the parking lot and observe company equipment in the back seat of a car through a closed but unobstructed window of the vehicle. You may A. Look closely through the window without entering the vehicle, or B. Enter the vehicle to determine if the equipment is stolen. Again, multiple choice. Choose the correct answer. Part F. The security guard's legal responsibilities and liabilities. Number 1. Who has the power to arrest? The authority to arrest is given to peace officers and all private citizens. Number 2. What is an arrest? An arrest is a form of lawful control by one person over the actions or movements of another. Number 3. What is criminal liability? The potential for punishment as a result of violating criminal law is called criminal liability. Some acts by security guards for which criminal liability is possible include the following: intimidation, excessive physical force, use of unauthorized deadly weapons, unlawful use of defensive weapons, false misdemeanor arrest, and finally unlawful felony arrest. Number 4, remember everyone has civil liability. That is, they are liable for their actions to other persons, companies, or organizations, whether public or private. Why is your employer also responsible for your actions? Well, remember, you are a representative of your employer. Therefore, any negligence or wrongful acts committed by you may also cause your employer to be held responsible. Number 6, when should a security guard make an arrest? A security guard who is expected to make an arrest should have explicit training on when and how to do so. Always use restraint and utilize an arrest as the last resort. Exam review number 7. Question 18. Telling a suspect you'd better start talking or you'll be sorry is an example of A. Intimidation, or B. Excessive physical force. Choose the correct answer. Number 19. No other permit is required to carry a gun if you have a security guard registration, alarm responders registration, private investigator license, or private patrol operator license. True or false? Question 20. What type of liability refers to the right a party has to initiate a lawsuit? A. Criminal liability, or B. Civil liability. Choose the correct answer. Question 21. If the security guard is charged with making a false arrest, what type of liability is incurred? A. Criminal liability, B. Civil liability. Choose the correct answer. Part G. Factors to consider before making an arrest. Number 1. Are security guards required to make arrests? The answer is no. You are never required to do so. Number 2. What are your primary responsibilities? Again, your role is primarily one of prevention, and if an offense occurs, you observe and report. Number 3, what other factors should be considered? Physical size. Is the suspect bigger than you? Weapons. Is the suspect armed or possibly armed? Escape. Will the suspect escape if you don't arrest? Type of offense. More serious crimes need an arrest. Relation to your job. Does the crime relate to your employer's person or property? If so, an arrest may be warranted. Exam review number 8. Question 22. While you're on duty at a shopping center, you see a 12-year-old jabbing an ice pick into a patron's car tires. You should first, A, pick up the 12-year-old and throw him out of the parking lot. B, get a good description and call the police. C, run at the 12-year-old and yell so the child will run away. Or D, approach him or her and tell them to stop. Question 23. A man is smashing tables and chairs at a bar you are security guarding. He is about 6'8" and weighs 280 pounds. You should, A, consider your safety and the safety of others. B, request patrons of the bar to clear the area. C, call the police for assistance. Or D, take all of the measures above. Question 24. You are a security guard working in a jewelry store at closing time. The last patron has left and your employer's about to lock up. You notice a man sitting in a car and the motor is running. You clearly see he has a gun in his hand. You should first, A, run out to the car and tell him to freeze. B, have the owner call the police and get a description. Or C, walk to the car and order the man to leave. Question 25. You're working at a club where everything is quiet. Down the street, 2 men get into a fight. You should, A, stay where you are. B, call someone over to watch the dance while you go down the street to break up the fight. Or C, shout down the street for the men to break it up. Question 26. You're patrolling a shopping area when you see a juvenile riding a skateboard. You know that skating is against mall policy. Your best course of action would be to A, handle the matter formally as a criminal offense, or B, politely approach the boy and inform him of the shopping mall policy regarding skating in the mall. Part H, arrestable offenses. Number 1, what are the 3 categories of arrestable offenses? They are infractions, like speeding, and it's important to remember that the enforcement of laws involving infractions are usually reserved for law enforcement officers. Misdemeanors, which are offenses typically carrying a fine or county jail time, like assault, battery, or disturbing the peace, or indecent exposure, littering, petty theft, and so forth. Felonies, which are serious crimes that carry extended jail or capital punishment. It's important to remember that the 2 conditions must exist before a felony arrest can be made. Number 1, a felony must have been committed. Number 2, reasonable cause to believe that the suspect actually committed the crime. Following are examples of felonies: assault with a deadly weapon, arson, grand theft, burglary, kidnapping, robbery, rape, manslaughter, and murder. Exam review number 9. Identify the following crimes based on the definitions you've just learned. Question 27. 2 men grab an employee getting out of his or her car in the parking lot. They shove the employee into their car and start driving away. This may be A, kidnapping, which is a felony, or B, robbery, which is a felony. Question 28. A family returns home to discover their household furnishings are missing. They may be victims of A, burglary, which is a felony, or B, robbery, which is a felony. Question 29. An ex-employee of a supermarket waits in her car as the manager closes the building and walks towards his car. She steps out of her car, points a gun at the manager, and fires 3 shots, killing the manager. What crime may have been committed? A. Arson, which is a felony, or B. Murder, which is a felony. Question 30. Tom is angered because Jim was dancing with Tom's girlfriend. Tom waits outside the door with a large board he picked up from a construction site. When Jim comes out of the building, Tom swings the board and hits Jim in the face. This is A. Assault with a deadly weapon, which is a felony, or B. Battery, which is a misdemeanor. Question 31. Secretaries Linda and Judy get into an argument over pay raises. Secretary Judy leaves the argument to go to the restroom. Secretary Linda, still angry, hides behind a large bookcase. As Judy returns, Linda tries to topple the bookcase onto Judy. The bookcase barely misses her. This is A. Assault, a misdemeanor, B. Assault with a deadly weapon, which is a felony, or C. Either A or B. Question 32. A man purchased a new $975 lawnmower, pushes it to his car, and leaves it beside the trunk while he goes back into the store. While he's gone, someone drives up in a station wagon, puts the new lawnmower in the back of the wagon, and drives off. What crime is this? A. Robbery, which is a felony, or B. Grand theft, which is a felony. Question 33. A man is sitting in the lobby of an automobile showroom at closing time. The security guard asks him to leave, and he refuses. The man has committed what crime? Trespassing, which is a misdemeanor, or disturbing the peace, which is a misdemeanor. Question 34. An angry employee pours lighter fluid in a trash container in the stock room, then lights it with a match. This is A. Vandalism, which is a misdemeanor, or B. Arson, which is a felony. Question 35. You drive up to a store at 2 a.m. and observe 2 men breaking open a door and beginning to load a pickup truck with merchandise. When they see you, they turn and run. This is A. Burglary, which is a felony, or B. Robbery, which is a felony. Part I. Private person's arrest. A security guard's powers to make an arrest are no greater than that of any other private citizen. Before making an arrest, you must first determine if the offense is a felony or a misdemeanor. The reason for this is because the determination and justification for arrest of 2 different kinds of offenses varies. Number 1. Example of a misdemeanor offense. Read this misdemeanor example carefully. Its purpose is to show that a misdemeanor arrest requires that the crime must have been either committed or attempted in your presence. Number 2. Read this felony example carefully. Its purpose is to exemplify that a felony must have been committed, not simply attempted, and reasonable grounds must exist to believe that the suspect did, in fact, commit the crime. Exam review number 10. Now analyze the following incidents and decide if you have grounds for an arrest. Question 36. You're making your rounds at a shopping center and come to a pickup truck parked at the curb. In the back of the truck are 2 color TV sets still in their packing boxes. The 2 men in the truck look suspicious. According to the law, you can arrest these 2 men. A. True. B. False. Question 37. You're on duty at a factory and you observe a suspect pouring what appears to be gasoline on the ground next to some storage tanks. As you approach, he lights the match and throws it on the liquid, igniting it. According to the law, you can arrest this man. True or false? Question 38. According to the law, which of the following conditions must exist before you can make a misdemeanor arrest? A. The suspect must admit to the crime. B. The crime must have been committed or attempted in your presence. Or C. Someone told you the suspect did it. Question 39. According to the law, which of the following conditions must exist before you can make a felony arrest? A. The felony must have been committed and you must have reason to believe that the person you are arresting actually committed it. B. You think a crime has been committed and the person you are arresting is the only person around. Or C. A citizen tells you he thinks someone was just assaulted. Part J, making an arrest. Number 1, the suspect. According to our legal system, a person is considered innocent until proven guilty. For this reason, when a person is arrested, that person is called or referred to as a suspect. Number 2, making an arrest. When making an arrest, you should tell the person that they are under citizen's arrest, what the charge is, and your authority to make the arrest. Number 3, use of force in an arrest. If the suspect resists arrest, you are permitted to use reasonable force to subdue them. Number 4, what is excessive force? An example of excessive force is knocking unconscious a suspect who is only trying to leave the scene. Number 5, a person who voluntarily responds to questioning and is not actually restrained is considered to be detained. Number 6, when is a suspect considered to be under arrest? When you have informed the suspect of your intention, cause, and authority to arrest them. Read the following slides, number 7, 8, 9, and 10, very carefully. Their purpose is to present in detail an example of how best to obtain pre-arrest information. Slide 7 reminds us that guilt by association is not a lawful way to make arrests. Slide 8 reminds us that in your process to obtain information, you cannot demand answers to your questions. Slide 9 suggests what should have been done, and Slide 10 suggests that a better way to approach possible suspects is by casually engaging them in conversation and then performing an interrogation and analysis. Exam review number 11. Question 40. What should you say to a person you are arresting for burglary? A. State your intent to arrest. B. State the charge, which is suspicion of burglary. C. State your authority to make the arrest. Or D. All of the above. Question 41. Once you have detained a person against his will, you have placed that person under citizen's arrest. True or false? Question 42. If you are struggling with a suspect and trying to get that suspect under control, and there are a number of bystanders, what does the law say you can do? A. Ask the bystanders to help you. B. Demand that the bystanders help you. C. Demand the bystanders to call the police. Question 43. Under what conditions may reasonable force be used against a suspect? A. Protection of self. B. Protection of others. C. To overcome suspect resistance. Or D. Any of the above. Part K. Searching the suspect. You should avoid searching a suspect because laws protect the rights of suspects who are being searched. You are not allowed to search someone in order to find evidence for making an arrest. Remember, you may search for only one thing: weapons. Number 1, method of frisk searching for weapons. A frisk is nothing more than a quick check to see if a suspect has a concealed weapon. This should occur only after the suspect is arrested. To perform a frisk, stand behind the suspect, run your hands over the outside of their clothing, pat those areas where a weapon might be concealed, and remove anything that feels like a weapon. Remember, do not remove any article that does not feel like a weapon. This is an illustration of a frisk. It's a graphic noting the areas that you can touch or pat in your search for weapons. Important, always use discretion when touching a suspect. Whenever possible, have a security guard of the same sex conduct the frisk, and always try to have witnesses to that frisk. Exam review number 12. Question 44. According to the text, you should A. Not search a suspect unless you have reason to believe that he or she has a weapon. B. Search all suspects immediately. C. Search only persons suspected of major crimes. Or D. Search only those persons with a police record. Question 45. What must you do before you frisk a suspect? A. Handcuff the suspect. B. Arrest the suspect. C. Tie the suspect's hands over his head. Or D. Write up a report. Question 46. A frisk by a security guard is a search for what? A. Weapons only. B. Stolen property only. C. Weapons or stolen property. D. Anything. Part L. Searching a suspect under Merchant's Privilege Rule. Number 1. The Merchant's Privilege Rule, under California statute, provides authority for a merchant's employees and agents, including a security guard, to detain persons suspected of shoplifting in a retail store. During detainment, any items in plain view which the merchant believes were unlawfully taken from the premises may be examined for the purpose of ascertaining ownership. Should the suspect refuse to surrender the item in question, a reasonable search may be conducted, but only of the suspect's packages, bags, or handbags, not their clothing. Number 2. Important things to remember. Reasonable non-deadly force may be used to subdue a suspect, and a limited search conducted of belongings only, not clothing. Remember that the suspect must be given over to law enforcement without delay. Also remember that if your post is inside a mall, your employer is probably the mall owner, and therefore you will be able to utilize the Merchant's Privilege Rule in the mall common area, but not inside individual retail stores unless specifically ordered. Part M, after the arrest. Number 1, what should a security guard do after an arrest? You must turn the suspect over to the police without delay. Number 2, what is reasonable delay? Well, delays to get to a phone would be considered reasonable. After lunch would very definitely not. Number 3, what is a peace officer's responsibility? To determine if it was a proper, justified arrest. If yes, they take the suspect into custody. If not, they release them. Number 4, release from custody. If the peace officer decides to release the suspect, the security guard must still reference this in their report. Number 5, private person's arrest for misdemeanor. Other things that may be asked of you. To meet with the district attorney, attend the suspect's hearing, even testify at trial. Exam number 13. Question 47. How soon must you turn a suspect over to a peace officer after an arrest? A, without delay. B, at any time. Or C, after reporting to your supervisor. Question 48. It would be lawful if you held a suspect for 2 hours so your supervisor could question him or her before you called the police. True or false? Question 49. If you have made a lawful arrest, the local peace officer must A, take custody of the suspect only if the crime is a felony. B, must take custody of the suspect only if the crime is a misdemeanor. C, must take custody of the suspect regardless of whether the crime is a misdemeanor or a felony. Or D, can refuse to take custody of the suspect. Question 50. If the crime committed is a felony, who will make the arrest? A, a proprietary security guard. B, the police. Or C, either A or B. Question 51. What will probably be required of you after making an arrest? A. Meeting with the district attorney. B. Attending the suspect's hearings. C. Testifying at the suspect's trial. Or D. All of the above. Part N. Terrorism. Number 1. What is terrorism? Terrorism is the use of force or violence against persons or property in violation of the criminal laws of the United States for purposes of intimidation, coercion, or ransom. Number 2. Types of terrorism. All acts of terrorism are crimes. The FBI categorizes terrorism as either domestic or international. Number 3. Nature and characteristics of terrorism. Terrorism is directed against governments, businesses, communities, and individuals. Terrorist actions are well planned and are usually executed without any deviation in their plan. The terrorists will always stage and even rehearse their plan at least 3 times before perpetrating their actual attack. Remember, a terrorist will not usually attack unless they believe that their operation will be 100% successful. That's why they select high visibility targets and attempt to do the maximum damage. They want a high body count. Whether a threat or an actual attack, it's a security guard who's on the front line. They're usually the first to arrive on the scene, size up the situation, request emergency backup, even render first aid. The FBI uses 4 counter-terrorist techniques to improve physical security. They deter, meaning they harden the target. They delay, meaning the use of barriers or locks to limit vehicular access. They deny, meaning they deny the terrorist media access. And finally, and this is most important, they detect before the actual attack. Exam review number 14. Question 52. Terrorism is a use of force or violence against persons or property for the purpose of intimidation or coercion. True or false? Question 53. All acts of terrorism are crimes. True or false? Question 54. What are the 2 types of terrorism? A. Chemical or biological. B. Computer and sabotage. C. Coercion and fear. Or D. Domestic and international. Question 55. What are the characteristics of a terrorist? A. They will have a specific objective in mind. B. They will always conduct a surveillance of the target. C. They will rehearse their operation. Or D. All of the above. Question 56. A terrorist almost always acts with a specific objective in mind. True or false? Question 57. What are the 4 counter-terrorist techniques of physical security? A. Security, weapons, deadly force, and threat intelligence. B. Deter, delay, deny, and detect. C. Deadly force, minimum force, de-escalation of force, and entry searches. Or D. None of the above. Question 58. Terrorist actions are well planned and are usually executed without any deviation in their plan. True or false? Question 59. Terrorism is directed against governments, businesses, communities, and individuals. True or false? Part O. Professional conduct of a security guard. The ability of a security guard to fulfill their duties is dependent upon securing and maintaining public respect and approval, which includes obtaining the public's willingness to cooperate in the task of preventing crime. As such, the security guard must maintain their appearance and demeanor to the highest level. Exam review number 15. Question 60. Appearance and cleanliness are not as important as showing up on time for work. True or false? Question 61. The general public judges a security guard by A. Appearance, B, speech, C, attitude, or D, all of the above? Question 62. A security guard is a peace officer while on duty. True or false? Question 63. Accepting gratuity is acceptable at certain times. True or false? Question 64. The ability of a private security company and its security officers to fulfill their duties is dependent upon securing and maintaining public respect and approval. True or false? This is the end of the study manual. Double-check your answers against the checkup questions on the following 4 slides and then prepare for the final exam. Stop. This is the end of the course. You have now completed the mandatory 4-hour Powers to Arrest training course. You should now download, complete, and return the Powers to Arrest final exam. Following your completion and submission of the final exam, you need to also complete the companion 4-hour Weapons of Mass Destruction course, which is also available online.